Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our live stream about gaining your edge for your career, starting from the end of 25 and into 2026. And today we have with us Ed Lawrence and Sophia Edwards.
Hello.
Ed is an expert in resume development. He actually is the guru that grades expert resume writers how to become even better at what they do. And Sophia is an end-to-end talent manager, I guess you would say, is that she takes people from the beginning of their career to the end of their career. So she takes them through the entire journey. And I'm a career coach. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've also do business coaching. And today we're going to be specifically focusing on career development, how you can gain an edge. We're going to be a little bit controversial today. Because, we're living in really what the word that comes up a lot when you watch journalists and news programs is unprecedented times. The job search is not what it used to be. Gone are the days when you could just go to a job board, go to LinkedIn, do some preliminary networking with your network and find a job. It's not working that way because people are not leaving their jobs. They're very concerned about moving from one place to another, and companies are not hiring. They've slowed down in their hiring, and a lot of this is due to AI, and probably just because of the uncertainties about what's going to happen. So we have to, if we're in a job search mode, we have to look at things in a different way. So Ed had some really great ideas as we were talking about this and how we could present this to you so that it would stir up some creativity in your thinking, some ways of looking at things differently so that you can have an edge to the next, choosing your next job instead of waiting to be chosen. So Ed, take it away.
Well, let's try to hit one or two things here instead of it being the Ed show or something with a diatribe. But one of the things we were discussing in our pre-meeting was how I had a client who basically didn't really know they could go outside the box. So they aren't sure, how do I get outside the box? And actually had this thinking of, if I'm going to be noticed, I don't want to be excluded. So I have to be the same as everybody else. And if you think about that, it's got contradictions built right into their thinking. And we've got to get people to pause and grab. Do you two remember what FUD means? Letter F, letter U, D. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what people have. Right now. And who can blame them? We're in an era of inflation. So a lot of people are afraid of paying the bills. And they have that trap of thinking, again, what has worked will work. And the more I apply, the better my chances. And the three of us know that's not going to work anymore. It's not going to cut it, right?
No, and actually, we were talking about this, Ed, that some people are even going to what AI agencies or whatever to send out hundreds of resumes at a time. And what is that? How is that working? If you're doing that, how is that working for you? Do you know of anybody that's working for Ed?
Sophia, you want to go next, and then I'll.
Absolutely, I don't know anyone that shotgun approach is working for. And whenever I always say job search is a sales campaign, right? And when you think about sales strategies that work, it's having a clearly identified target audience and targeting your communications for that audience. And that plays into what you were saying earlier, Faith, about identifying your dream employer and identifying who within that organization you would likely report to, and then networking efforts in that direction.
Yeah. So so now thinking outside of the box and using our creativity with this, how could we go about networking in that way, or setting up something in that way, so that we can have a systematic way of working this through? Because as you said, it's a campaign. This is a campaign that we have to set up. So we have to become very organized about this campaign. And then, when you're a salesperson, you're selling your services, the value that you're bringing to your next employer. But you don't want to look at this as you having to do all the work. You know, the employer has to meet you halfway. So how do you make that happen? How do you find the employer, and then how do you make it happen so that you start this? I'm going to give you a clue. Conversation.
I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 second, Faith. I got a text from someone who had registered for this event, and he says he's logged into the meeting, but it hasn't started for him. Do we have to admit attendees somehow?
I'm not seeing a way to admit attendees.
I would have them refresh, because I went to the page and did a refresh, and I haven't started it myself, but there's a play button for me. So
Okay.
have them try refreshing the screen if you can get that message to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go ahead with the conversation that we started, Sophia, and I'm going to get my my videographer working on
Sure.
this. I'm going to send a text.
So I think there's real value in identifying target employers. And one of the ways I describe it to my clients is, you don't want to be a gatherer just responding to whatever comes across your path. You want to be a hunter. You're looking for something in particular. And that might be company culture. It might be a certain industry. It might be a certain functionality. But going after what you really want, and the Venn diagram on my profile shows it as career paradise, that's going to yield a better result than just responding to anything that comes up. And you go, oh, well, I think I could do that job. If you're going through that process, as opposed to saying, this is perfect, I know that and even if you are, great. And he's asking me to send him a link, and I don't know.
I've got Stephanie's working on this.
Okay.
Go ahead. Keep
talking.
Don't let this be your worry. I'll look after it.
I won't worry about it, because there's going to be a recording and he can watch it later if necessary. So I lost my train of thought. But targeting and going after things that you really want, as opposed to focusing on trying to contort yourself to align with a job that isn't really a job that you're particularly enthusiastic about, because no employer wants somebody who's just there for the paycheck. They want somebody who's engaged, who's really excited about the work that they do.
Yeah. So let's talk about taking control of that job search, and how we can, really become confident in the search that we're doing, and taking the initiative to reach out. So one of the things that I know really works for my clients is to make a list of companies that they want to work for, that they would like to work for. And then go and find. So this is kind of like a teaching moment we're going through here. We're not just giving out philosophy. This is teaching. Go to a AI program like Perplexity, and find out who. Perplexity is really good for this, and you don't even have to have a paid subscription. Nope. You can actually use the free version of Perplexity. It's a great research tool. If you haven't been using that, it's really ideal for use in research with your job search. So you look up to find the title of the person you would be reporting to. in that company. So say you have 10 companies, or even better, make it 20. And then you find the name of the person you would be reporting to. And then you start doing some work around maybe networking to find if there's someone who's connected to that person that you know, that you could get introduced to them. Good so far? Ed?
I think so. I think when people are targeting companies and targeting their networking based on postings, then they're not tapping into the hidden job market. And we talked about that. You have to be proactive in your targeting.
Yes.
Can I
And-
interject? I want to go just a little bit further backwards, just for a moment. One of the biggest problems that I have seen in clients related to what the three of us are discussing is they're not targeting companies. Yeah, in part because they never have, but also a lot of the people, they're adrift. If I ask them what type problems do you solve, most of them are vague. I mean, I actually had somebody recently say to me, I want to get into advocacy. Okay, notable. What do you want to advocate for? What group? What's your audience? What type problems do you want to advocate, for or against? They had no answer. I really see that people, in the entirety, we'll say overall, they're not thinking about what problems they want to solve, which again, that's going to, sort of stop them from getting to that list of companies. Again, this goes back to the concept that you guys know I follow, work from the inside out. I'm on a mission to change people's mindsets. I want them to think like a carpenter, plumber, electrician. One of the worst slogans all of us ever heard growing up was build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. How many coaches, think about the three of us when we first started. Hey, maybe we built our website and then we waited. Oh, some of my friends, maybe they'll hire me, but nobody really knew about us. I didn't make a profit for 3 years, and that's what the statistics actually show. And you got to think sort of the same way with the job search, I feel. And this gets back to what you said, Faith and Sophia, proactive. We got to get out there and do a campaign, but not begging, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
I'm
We wanna
very
We
adamant about
don't
that.
want to wait for 3 years like Ed waited.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying, and we were talking about this before, in that networking is not, when you think about networking, it's not in response to a posting. Yes, you're going to network in response to posting, but networking is targeting employers that may not currently have a posting. It is reaching out to individuals before there's a posting, and it is an incubation period. The analogy I often use is when you plant a garden, you put the seeds in the ground and you're watering them, and every day it looks like you're just making mud. And then with other people, they're still putting in all those online apps. They haven't planted those networking seeds. But then after nurturing those connections, all of a sudden there's a lot of green sprouting up. And
Right.
so it takes time for that outreach to incubate. I agree. We don't want to wait 3 years. I don't want to discourage anyone into thinking that's how long it will take to find a job. It shouldn't. But I also think you need a multifaceted campaign. You're
Okay,
going to do
so I
a
have
lot
a
of
question. I have a
Yep.
question. So Carla, thanks Carla for submitting this question. How do you communicate flexibility in skill set, problems you want to solve, etc., versus being adrift? I've worked in a number of regulated industries, but I don't have a strong preference. The culture of the company is more important to me. So how do you communicate flexibility in that sense?
Who do you want to go first?
Let's choose Sophia today to go
Okay.
first.
I think it's great that you're flexible and you have a lot of capabilities, I like to refer to myself as a utility player. But if you are unfocused, then that means the entire planet is your target market. And no company that's selling products or services is unfocused in that way. You want to at least narrow it down. I do recommend 50 companies as your target list because you're targeting employers that do not currently have a posting. And so you can do some research about culture. There are a variety of ways to do that. But the rationale for such a lengthy list is that you're hoping that an acceptable time frame, an appropriate opening arises within an acceptable time frame. And so if you only pick 2 or 5 companies, that may or may not be the case. Average tenure for a CFO is 3 years. So if you're only picking 10 companies, there might not be a new CFO opportunity within the time frame that you want to be employed.
Yeah. Also, as we were talking, I was thinking, I'm going to come to you, Ed, but I had a thought. I shouldn't be thinking while you're talking, Sophia, but you
It's okay.
prompted my thought. That, if you have more than one skill set, that's a wonderful thing to have, more than one skill set, more than one way of solving problems. But so maybe you narrow it down to 2 or 3 areas where you make a contribution. And then you start your search from there. So, and probably there's one that you prefer more than others. We'll start the one that you prefer more than the others, but you have these other 2 in your mind. So you're going to start with the one you prefer and work through that with the target companies that you've targeted to promote that way of thinking or that skill problem solving ability, and then go to the next and then the next. But just start with one. Have you ever read the book, The One Thing? It's a really amazing book, and it helps you to focus on the one thing that you need to do right now to make a difference, whether it's in your career or in your business. I can't remember the name of the author at this moment. Maybe Ed's looking it up, but it's called The One
Writing
Thing.
it down. I will look it up.
Yeah. Ed, you were going to...
Gary Keller.
Gary Keller. And Gary Keller, that was a real estate billionaire that wrote the book on how he got to where he got to. So Ed, you were going to add to this question. How do you communicate flexibility?
Great answers. And my gut response is companies want purple squirrels.
Yes.
These days, buyer's market, they're being very selective. So you have got to focus everything on the problem they want solved and your skill set that matches. Now, you get to choose, do you want to apply? And I've always said, hey, apply for jobs that match your skills at companies that match your values. Well, what are your values? Again, what problems do you want to solve? What are your values? And like you said, yeah, you can choose 2 or 3 things, but for each individual application, change your message a bit. You've got to make it targeted specific. So again, I fall back on carpenter, plumber, electrician. I'm got a project going on in my own house, by the way, that's involving electrical and gas. Am I going to hire a handyman who says, oh, I've worked a little bit with gas. Oh, I can do your electrical stuff. Well, no, I'm getting separate licensed people, who to do each job. I've got to pay for that, because I also have to meet, the town guidelines and permits and stuff. Well, companies have similar things. So for every company you apply to, you want to present yourself, again, as part of this promotional campaign. Yes, I'm the person you want. As my friend Chris Kelly says, I am going to be your chosen one, and you target everything for that. Now, what about the other things you have? Instead of saying, oh, I can also do this, I can also do that, at the start, because no one now, folks, everybody listening to me, they don't care what 12 things you do. They want to know the 1 or 2 things you do great. Everything else you present afterwards or along the way as value add. And great example I give of this, one of the best interviews I had when I was hired by the Massachusetts State Career System. They said, "Why should we hire you?" And I answered it in my head first as, "Why should they hire me instead of anybody else?" Add those words. And they wanted a trainer. Well, I was a trainer. And then I mentioned to them how your courses are 10 years out of date. I'm also an instructional designer. And by the way, I recognize I'm not going to be teaching every day and designing courses every day, or you may want me to do other work. So, by the way, I have my CPRW. And then I said, it's going to be very difficult for you to find another trainer who's also an instructional designer with a CPRW.
Right.
Yeah.
So come up with that unique list.
The
That
unique
makes them
list,
say,
yeah.
wow, you're the one we're looking for.
Yeah, so that also, when it comes to that, it's about taking a step back, and just do some self-examination. When you lose a job, when you're laid off or fired, nobody says fired anymore, but it's, they just say laid off, but really we get fired. And it's a violent act when we're laid off. It's something that requires us taking a step back and thinking, how did this happen to me? Why me? How come they kept all those other people there and they don't even do any work, right? There's all of that going on. So it's a grieving process. You have to go through the grieving process from being blindsided and dumbfounded through sadness, despair, anger. And then you get to that point where you say to yourself, okay, so that happened. Now what? Right? And then you step back and you think, what would I really love to do? What is it that when I'm at work and I'm doing this, time passes by and I don't even recognize it? When am I in flow? Have you ever heard about that terminology, flow? You probably have. A lot of people have talked about it. Tony Robbins, all of the gurus, they talk about being in flow. Well, flow is a thing that really works for us, especially when we're in this situation, because if we can really think about the time that we were in flow, that everything was going right for us, that's a place we need to examine to see, what was I doing? What was it that made that such a great experience for me? And then start to examine, what would I like to do now that would help me to continue to get that flow experience again? And so when you have your target companies, then you're looking for that. You're looking for how you can help them and at the same time ignite that energy that you want to ignite in yourself. It's time to ignite our energy, guys. It's too depressing. You don't want to be depressed all the time. You want to get excited about life again. And getting excited is about being in your flow. Now, one of the best ways to figure out how to be in flow is a really simple little exercise that you can do on a daily basis. And it's called a gratitude exercise. And when you can write down a list of things that you're grateful for, you're going to see coming through those things you're grateful for, the things that you love doing, the things that make you happy. And then from there, you can start building your strategy, building your tactics on how to land your next job.
I think that introspection is really valuable. And one of the things that it's hard for people to remember and be grateful about during the search, because it is, sort of wearing on people, is as long as you're engaging in the activities, I've said this on multiple lives before, as long as you're engaging in the activities that will ultimately lead to success, it's been a good day. You're not going to, flip a switch and magically get a job. But the better job you do at executing your campaign, the sooner you get back to those things where you're in flow, right? The sooner you get back to doing the things that are fulfilling to you.
Well
Sophia, I
said.
have a client through the library work, and they've been seeing me off and on. And recently they said how they're incredibly busy, but they get the feeling they're not doing anything.
Hmm.
And I said to them, I'm going to offer you a slightly different perspective. I said, you're doing an awful lot, but is it getting you anywhere towards your goal? And this person, for some reasons I can't go into specifics, I'm trying to get them to think in the way the three of us are trying to get people to think. And they've been resistant all along. They keep saying to me, I just want practical help with my resume and LinkedIn, and I'll get a job. That's the mindset I feel we have to change in the people.
Oh, absolutely. That's a prerequisite. That's not the ultimate goal. That's not enough.
Yeah. So one of the things that may be helpful for you, Carla, I hope we answered your question. We took a lot of time on it because it was an excellent question.
Good one, yeah.
I really, and led to a lot of conversation, obviously. One of the things that I've been offering to my clients lately is a what I call a custom GPT. I've built a little custom GPT that can help you to figure out your value proposition. And it only takes about 20 minutes to go through. If you have a subscription for ChatGPT, if you have a subscription for ChatGPT, you don't have to have a paid subscription. You can work through this with a free one. And you would like to have a copy of that custom GPT, I can send it to you. You just can DM me after this presentation. I'll send it to you. And you can work through it, and it can help you to get some clarification on what's the thing that you want to offer right now that will make a difference in your job search. So we're almost at the half. We're doing this for 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. If anyone else has a question, we're happy to answer that question for you for the next couple of minutes. We'll stay on and answer the question. If not, I'll just get Ed and Sophia to sum up our conversation today. And maybe I'll start with Ed.
Yeah. Well, welcome to December. The holiday season's here. By now, you've seen dozens of articles in the news, the internet, on LinkedIn, everybody telling you, keep networking, keep networking. And my advice is, yeah, keep doing that. But again, don't try to force it. You can go to parties, you can go to events, tell the truth. You don't have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Talk about your interests, acknowledge, hey, you're still looking. And, I like to say, ultimately, the goal is to be on people's minds. All my recent jobs, even my last couple in high tech, they were all referrals that people reached out to me. I worked for the Framingham Public Library. They reached out to me. The job I had back at Mass Hire in 2018, another coach contacted me, said, hey, maybe you'd be interested in this. Yeah. If you can be likable and nice, then people will want to help you, especially during the holiday season.
And also if you tell people what you're up to, like, what you're up to, what you'd like to do next, and then they can have an idea of what you're looking for. So that's going to be in their mind when they're thinking about you. Sophia.
I would just second everything that Ed has said, and also remind people that there are some positive aspects of being laid off or in transition. You get to focus on family matters if needed, and you can upgrade your skills. I think that's really important to demonstrate continuous learning, trying to be ahead or at least on parity with the market. And it's an opportunity when Ed said, tell people what you're up to. Yes, I've just taken a class on X, Y, or Z. And, it's made me even more excited about my next opportunity, whatever that might be. And a lot of people are doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And don't slow down in your job search just because it's December and the end of the year. Even though companies aren't putting out a lot of job postings, there are jobs that need to be filled within those organizations. And, this is a time of the year. I know I worked in the pharmaceutical industry and medical equipment industry before doing coaching. And December is the time of the year when companies want to fill their complement of employees so that when they start January, they have a full, they've got everybody in place, and then they can get their objectives done and their forecast done and just start off the year right. So this is a great time of the year to be in a job search. So don't slow down, start networking. If you're doing cold outreach, if you're interested in doing cold outreach, you can reach out to any one of us, Ed or Sophia, and we can help, and myself, we can help you with that. And I want to really thank you for participating in our live stream today. I apologize to the gentleman who couldn't get in. We looked for him in the lobby. I had my assistant looking for him in the lobby, and we couldn't find him, so we couldn't bring him in. But there's going to be a replay, and I hope you get the benefit of this. Thank you so much.
Wishing
Bye
you
for
all
now.
a terrific 2026.
Yes.